I'm Ted Nelson, a member here at 1U, and it is my honor and joy to welcome you back inside our sanctuary after all these months away. And to our friends participating online, we welcome you to today's service, and we hope that you will consider joining us in person when you feel safe and comfortable to do so. Starting next week, as a reminder, November 21st, our worship service will begin at 10:30 a.m. again. A reminder for everyone here in person today, please silence your phones, turn off your Facebook feeds for the service so that it doesn't interfere with all the equipment. Today, we are glad to have Reverend Margalie Belazaire in the pulpit leading worship with the assistance of worship associate Rhonda Rodriguez and music director Aubrey Connelly-Candelario. And speaking of music, we invite you to sing along today. Lyrics will appear on the slides. Just please continue to wear your mask to keep our singing safe. We welcome all to join us as we explore our Unitarian Universalist faith, which draws us into a community of justice seekers with a commitment to lifelong spiritual growth and compassionate service. If you would like to watch the service online later, it will be available shortly after the service. For more information about our congregation, go to orlandouu.org or email WelcomeTeam@orlandouu.org. Our announcements for today all have links in our newsletter or on our website and will be repeated for those of you watching online at the end of the service. A few logistics. About a half an hour after service today, we'll gather back in the sanctuary for our fall congregational meeting, with extra space available for attendees in Gore Hall. The Zoom link for online attendees was emailed. You can also find it in the weekly update as well as on the slide. It is not too late for voting members to make their voices heard. The links to the minutes of the May 17th meeting for review and the form to vote on approval of those minutes were emailed earlier in the week. The annual meeting minutes are also posted on the 1U website. You go to the Member tab, then click on Our Governance, then on Congregational Meetings and Budgets. Voting is open through 1 p.m. today. We're looking forward to seeing everyone at the meeting. While we prepare for the congregational meeting, we will have a brief informal fellowship outside in the labyrinth, and there will be snacks available in Gore Hall. Please don't bring food or drinks back into the sanctuary for the meeting. And an important reminder through all these times that we travel through together. The Caring Circle and Lay Pastoral Associates are two groups which help support our church members. We want to remind you that the Caring Circle is the doing committee that can perform short-term logistical services such as transportation and meals, shopping, etc. The Pastoral Associates are the presence and can provide compassionate listening and support congregants in a confidential relationship. Any information will not be shared beyond the minister and these groups unless you designate your desire to have it shared within the congregation or through joys and concerns. Before we proceed with today's service, both those with us in the sanctuary and those watching from home, let's give ourselves a quick round of applause for maintaining our community throughout this COVID pandemic. We continue to look forward to the day when we're at green status and fully open. Now, let us worship together.
Yes! Woohoo!
honor, albeit in a minute way, Native American Heritage Month, I call us to worship with the words of Sean Neal Barron, a territorial acknowledgement. We gather together as a community of seekers to honor the interdependence of life, to respect the dignity of all, and to honor the land we walk humbly upon. Friends, let's acknowledge that we walk upon the traditional territories of the Timucua and Tocoboga people, the original nations of this land, who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. We are blessed with a space and opportunity to strive, to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to live out our dream of a world community of peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry forth as we journey together this morning. Blessed be.
Karina Cook, please join me in our familiar chalice lighting words. We gather. We gather to see, to sustain, and to share.
Thank you, Karina. We did it, beloveds. We are worshiping in person. I'm so excited I forgot to put my mic on. I should start again too, because I just only now got the thumbs up for the online people. We did it, beloveds. We are worshiping together in person and in the sanctuary. Wow. Let us take a collective deep breath together. Whew. I felt it was important enough for me to robe, even though, as you can see, I don't do well with the heat. But this is definitely worth it. And I am also wearing this particular stole. And I don't know if you know this, and I'm going to step out a little bit or lift it up so you can see it. This stole is gifted to the congregation by Reverend Marnie. So, yeah, so when I started, she passed it on to me. It's gifted by her, and she passed it on to me. So I keep it in the office. Well, for one thing, it belongs to the congregation, but also, if a visiting minister needs to use it, it'll be here for them to use. And I say we take one more collective breath. Let's take this breath together so we can ground ourselves in this moment. Let's not let it pass by without acknowledging your returning together to this sanctuary and our first time worshiping together as people who have agreed to do co-ministry together. May we always be kind to each other, challenge one another to grow, and may we show patience and grace when things go awry. May it be so.
Good morning. Our first hymn together, our first time singing together in almost 2 years, is 188, It Is Around. We are all going to sing it one time through together, and then we're going to divide. So those of you who self-identify as a low voice, you will be the first to go. when we start the round. And those of you who are the high voices, you'll be the second to go. And when we do the round part, we will do that 2 times through and then stop. Of course, just sing. You get confused? Just sing. Please stand as we sing Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Ready? Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of needing, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Low voices. Come, come, whoever you are. High.
Good morning, everyone. So our Time for All Ages story will be familiar, I think, to many of you. It is the subject of a really good picture book called And Tango Makes Three. The version that I'm going to read comes from Tapestry of Faith. So it just goes to show that when it comes to the greatest stories, UU finds them first. At the Central Park Zoo in New York City, there were 2 penguins named Roy and Silo who adored each other. It is typical for penguins to find a partner, a mate, one other penguin that is special to them. Usually it is one female and one male penguin that like each other and become a penguin couple. They have fun together and help each other out. When a female lays an egg, her partner takes turns with her, sitting on the egg to keep it warm so it will hatch. Then a baby penguin pokes out of its shell to be born, and the 2 penguins become its parents and take care of it together. Well, Roy and Silo were partners. The zookeepers could all see that they did everything together that the other penguin couples did. They talked to each other in penguin language. They swam together. They would wrap their necks around each other to show their affection. But one thing they did not do was lay an egg and take turns sitting on it. Only female penguins lay eggs, and Roy and Silo were both males. The zookeepers could see that Roy and Silo wanted to be penguin parents, though. One time, a zookeeper saw that Roy and Silo were taking turns sitting on a rock. The rock was shaped like a penguin egg. Roy and Silo were keeping it warm so it would hatch. Of course, the rock would never hatch into a baby penguin. Then the zookeepers noticed that another pair of penguins, one female and one male, had 2 eggs that they were trying to keep warm at the same time. The zookeepers knew that this would be very hard for them to do. They decided to give both eggs a good chance to hatch into baby penguins, and at the same time give Roy and Silo a chance to become penguin parents. The zookeepers gave Roy and Silo the egg that needed to be kept warm. First Roy sat on the egg, and then Silo. They took turns keeping the egg warm, just like the other penguin partners. And finally, one day, Roy and Silo's egg began to hatch, and out popped a perfectly healthy baby girl penguin. The zookeepers welcomed the new baby penguin with the name Tango. A tango is a dance for 2 dancers. To dance a tango, the partners have to stand very close together and understand each other's movements. When two tango dancers have a good partnership, their dancing looks very lovely and graceful. The way Roy and Silo were such good partners together reminded the zookeepers of a beautiful tango dance. After Tango was born, Roy and Silo did what parents do. They kept Tango warm. They brought her food in their beaks and fed it to her, and in a few months, Tango was ready to do most things for herself. Her parents, Roy and Silo, raised her very well.
Cindy? Well, let's make space for the joys and the sorrows that we're carrying on our hearts this morning. Take a moment, and if you have someone on your heart, if you could reflect on them a little bit, whether they're there because of a joy or because of a sorrow. And for those of you who are with us online, if you would add the names of those people in the chat. This past Thursday was November 11th, which was Veterans Day. So I wanted to do a prayer today for the veterans. And it is a prayer that I borrowed from Barbara J. Peskin. Ground yourself as comfortably as you can. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable, or have them at a soft gaze ahead of you. This prayer will be followed by a moment of silence. Spirit of life, whom we have called by many names in thanksgiving and in anguish, bless the poets and those who mourn. Send peace for the soldiers who did not make the wars, but whose lives were consumed by them. Let strong trees grow above graves far from home. Breathe through the arms of their branches. The earth will swallow your tears, while the dead sing, no more, never again, remember me. For the wounded ones and those who receive them back, let there be someone ready when the memory comes, when the scars pull and the buried metals move, and forgiveness for those of us who were not there for our ignorance. And in us, veterans in a forest of 1,000 fallen promises, let new leaves of protest grow on your stumps. Give us courage to answer the cry of humanity's pain, and with our bare hands, out of full hearts, with all our intelligence, let us create the peace. For those among us who are grieving a veteran, know that you are in community, and please reach out if you need to. May it be so. This time I'll lose the mask. You have to understand, working in the public schools, we just got permission to stop wearing the masks on Friday, so it's going to be a hard habit to break. Our reading today comes to us from Reverend Emily Gage. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations points us toward something beyond inherent worth and dignity. It points us to the larger community. It gets at collective responsibility. It reminds us that treating people as human beings is not simply something we do one-on-one, but something that has systemic implications and can inform our entire cultural way of being. Compassion is something that we can easily act on individually. We can demonstrate openness, give people respect, and treat people with kindness on our own. But we need one another to achieve equity and justice. Justice, equity, and compassion are all part of the same package. Just as the second principle overlaps with the first, so it is related to the seventh principle, the interdependent web of all existence.
We continue to share the plate with this month's partner, the Hope Community Center. You can find more information on the work the Hope Community Center does in the community by going to their website, which is listed in the newsletter. If you choose to donate directly through the organization's website, please let us know you donated by dropping a line to programassistant1u@gmail.com. And today, in order to make our collection as safe as possible, we're going to be introducing a new set of collection baskets with handles, which will be handled by our ushers directly. Of course, you can also make an offering online to support the many ministries of this congregation. Simply go to orlandouu.org and click the donate button in the upper right corner, or send a text, or even mail a check. And speaking of Share the Plate, please take a moment this week to consult the weekly update for our list of nominated organizations and make your vote online to help us determine who 1U will lend support to in the coming year.
I forgot to say earlier when I was talking about the stole, I heard something about stoles recently that made me think, oh wow, they were definitely made for me. Supposedly, true or not, I don't know. But they started out with stoles. You know, ministers will be doing a sermon and they're sweating, and that was a way for them to right? I don't know if that's true, but I love it. The Church of the Larger Fellowship, or CLF, which until the pandemic was the only UU congregation that functioned entirely online, this congregation engages in a prison ministry called Worthy Now. Worthy Now focuses on encouraging free worlders, that's us, who are not incarcerated. It focuses on encouraging free worlders and the incarcerated into beloved community. It's done in many ways. One of them, for example, there's a pen pal program. Another way they do it is that they partner with individual UU congregations, brick and mortar congregations, to meet a certain need that would benefit the incarcerated. I remember talking to someone about this program, and they seemed perplexed as to why CLF would work with prisoners. In all fairness, the conversation got cut short, so I'm not sure that we really got to give this conversation the time that it needed. But I did get the impression at the end that they didn't feel that the incarcerated were worthy of the attention of free worlders. What I love about Worthy Now, its name and mission, is how it pronounces that all persons are worthy of love, respect, support, not in some point in the future, but right now. That they are better than the worst thing they've ever done. And they do not judge people by that one thing. Because if you think about it, if we were judged by the worst thing we've ever done, you know that thing we haven't shared with anyone? I don't know where we would be. So this, of course, this treating people as if they are worthy of love, respect, and support is in line with our First U principle, where we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Inherent worth, inherent dignity. Inherent, of course, which is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as existing in something as permanent, essential, or characteristic attribute. So worth is in us, as is dignity. Something that has worth is something that is deserving of effort, of attention and respect. And something that has dignity has the quality of being worthy of honor and respect. We, all of us, every person, our first principle maintains, simply by being born, are naturally deserving of attention, respect, to be honored, and are deserving of a little effort. Or, to put it bluntly, we are all deserving of love. There's nothing we need to do to earn worthiness or dignity. Conversely, there is nothing that we can do to be stripped of our worth and dignity. It is a part and parcel of being human, and none of us has the right to cast anyone away as anyone out of the human family. Because we cannot know if someone is really unredeemable. Of course, we find it generally easier to see the value in those we love, or in people we perceive as good or decent, or even pleasing to the eyes. However, when it comes to those we are indifferent to, or we consider evil, or indecent, unredeemable, abhorrent, or even just not good enough, we might then have some difficulty affirming their inherent worth and dignity. So, as you sit here, bring to mind the person or persons you believe is the worst of us all. Yes, that human being that you may see as hateful and evil, or the one you may feel is less than for whatever reason. They too, because as our principles say, every person. So they too, simply by being born, by being alive, are naturally deserving of attention, respect, to be honored, and of a little effort. Reverend Rebecca Ann Park notes, reverence and respect for human nature is at the core of Unitarian Universalist faith. We believe that all the dimensions of our being carry the potential to do good. We celebrate the gifts of being human, our intelligence and capacity for observation and reason, our senses and ability to appreciate beauty, our creativity, our feelings and emotion. We cherish our bodies and our souls. We can use our gifts to offer love, to work for justice, to heal injury, to create pleasure for ourselves and others. Quoting the great 20th century Rabbi Abraham Heschel, she continued, "Just to be is a blessing. Just to be is a blessing. Just to live is holy." Then Parker concluded, "Unitarian Universalists affirm the inherent worth and dignity of each person as a given of faith, an unshakable conviction calling us to self-respect and respect of others. Reverence and respect for human nature is at the core of our faith, which I know we don't always get right. But the wonderful thing for us is that we are a faith that is always growing, always learning. We have gotten better at affording all people their dignity. Our ancestors, for example, ran one of the government-subsidized schools for Native American children, schools that were established because the indigenous people of this land could not be trusted with the education of their offsprings. However, as a faith tradition, we grew, we learned, we better understand that indigenous folks are worthy of respect and autonomy and know what's best for them and their people. We are inherently worthy. That, however, does not give us the right to be, let's just say it, jerks, or reckless, or disregard and dismiss others. It doesn't mean that our rights ought to be over those of others. That's where, to me, the second principle comes in, where we affirm justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. If we look back at the original 6 principles from when the Unitarians merged with Universalists in 1961, and you might remember me talking about how the principles came together last month. The first principle is clearly represented in the third assertion of those previous 6. It says, to affirm, defend, and promote the supreme worth of every human personality, the dignity of man, and the use of democratic method in human relations. Principle 2 to me does not seem as obviously represented unless we look at that last part, the use of democratic method in human relations. I think they were trying to capture that sentiment here. But if that's actually the case, there is an assumption of equality in human relationships when that's not necessarily the case. Of course, I'm not talking about our other principle that talks about the democratic process. But at any rate, I find that our current second principle, as it is written, grounds the first principle and gives it texture. In short, the first principle tells us that we are important, while the second principle reminds us that others are important as well. That it is not just about us, that we are navigating life with others, that our worthiness does not give us the license to trample on the rights of others, and we must treat other people with justice, equity, and compassion. We are called to be accountable to and for one another because we are connected to something greater than ourselves. Reverend Emily Gage stated from Rhonda's reading, I find repetition to be important, and the part I'm going to read to you is the first part of that reading. Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations points us towards something beyond inherent worth and dignity. It points us to the larger community. It gets at collective responsibility. It reminds us that treating people as human beings is not simply something we do one-on-one, but something that has systemic implications and can inform our entire cultural way of being. Compassion is something that we can easily act on individually. We can demonstrate openness, give people respect, and treat people with kindness on our own, but we need one another to achieve equity and justice. I view the first principle as a declaration of who we are and addresses the idea of universal salvation, which is from our Christian ancestry. It says we are born good and innocent. We are not damned or born of sin. It says we are good at our core. It asks nothing of us other than rest in that knowledge. The second principle, and perhaps subsequent ones, tells us how to treat ourselves and others. If we indeed believe that every person has inherent worth and dignity. 2 requires something of us. It requires us to be just, to play fair, and to show care in our engagement of others. So, how do we live out these 2 values on a day-to-day basis? I've mentioned these throughout the sermon, but I want to present them here as a list. Perhaps they could be of help to you. We could live out principles 1 and 2 by celebrating the gifts of being human. That is our intelligence and capacity for observation and reason. I like to say that we are amazing beings, but we don't always see it in ourselves. We see it in other people. We're very good at complimenting other people, but sometimes we fail to see our own intelligence, our own capacity for reasoning, our own creativity, our feelings, and our emotions. We can cherish our bodies as well as our souls. We can use our gifts to offer love, to work for justice, to heal injury, to create pleasure for ourselves and others. By being conscious of the fact that we are part of a larger community, by remembering that we have collective responsibility to and for one another, by treating people, including ourselves, with love and compassion, that we remember how we treat people in one-on-one interactions has systemic implications and can inform our entire cultural way of being. In short, we are truly wonderful and marvelous creatures just as we are right now. Even as we are learning, as we are growing, even in our imperfections, we are deserving of love, and we are capable of compassion and of treating others fairly. This brings me back to the phrase "worthy now" and how our sibling congregation, CLF, is giving attention to those that most of the world has discarded and forgotten about. What a wonderful example of living out our UU values and creating beloved community. May we keep living in the love. Please join. Oh, benediction first. Oh, thank you. Go forth in simplicity. Find and walk the path that leads to happiness, peace, and ease. Welcome the stranger and open your heart to a world in need of healing. Be courageous before the forces of hate. Hold and embody a vision of the common good that serves the needs of all people. Reverend Samuel Trambore. Beloveds, worship has ended, and now the service truly begins. If you would join me in extinguishing our chalice, which is very low right now, the words, "We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again." Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes? You have one? Okay.
I do.
Okay. Very good. I will make, we've already got several on that.